Let's talk to Jacob in Milton Keynes. Jacob, welcome to the show.
Yes, hello. Just a few points. First of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with erecting a mosque in Ground Zero, as long as I'm allowed to erect a church in Saudi Arabia. Let's have reciprocity, and that's what we don't have. We have a double standard here, where the West is expected to be multicultural.
But the West claims to be multicultural.
Well, I mean,
you can't have it both ways. You can't claim to be multicultural. You can't claim to be religiously tolerant and then forbid people from erecting or converting buildings to places of worship for their faith.
Well, I just think we should have reciprocity, and
But Saudi Arabia doesn't claim to be multicultural. It doesn't claim to be religiously tolerant.
Well, maybe we've become too weak. I mean, you know, we're talking about Pastor Jones. I mean, I agree with his sentiments, but I disagree with his actions. I believe that the Koran is a book of hatred and violence and warfare. Look at all the trouble spots in the world right now. They're all Islamic, you know. But I don't agree with his actions. I think...
Well, look, Jacob, 70 years ago, which is a mere second in time, the world was in flames as a result of a war which broke out between countries that were, nominally at least, Christian. Muslims had nothing to do with it. The Bible is the book of the Christian religion, which has been involved in rather a few wars and rather a few trouble spots.
Well, look at 1453, for example.
Oh, yes. Yes, let's look at 1453.
Invaded the Byzantine Empire. Now, you said that, for example...
Well, why don't we talk about 1189? Why don't we talk about 1189, when the Christian Crusades set out to conquer Jerusalem?
Wars. They were defensive
The Crusades
wars.
were defensive wars.
They were defensive wars. They were defending Europe from being Islamicized.
King Richard went to occupy...
I am from a Pakistani Christian background.
Well, Jacob, I know very well what background you're from, because you've been on here many times with your particular brand of hate speech. Now listen to me.
Well, I only have a hatred of the Quran, not of Muslims. Only of the Quran.
How could Richard, travelling from England...
They were defensive wars.
Richard travelled from England...
Europe was about to be Islamicized.
Jacob, we can't both speak at the same time. Richard went from England to occupy Jerusalem. How can that be a defensive war?
They were defensive wars. Islam was encroaching. It had taken Egypt, which used to be a Christian country, by the way. It had taken Asia Minor, the Byzantine Empire, and it was encroaching into Western Europe, and they were defensive
He
wars.
went to occupy Jerusalem. He went to occupy Jerusalem.
And do you know why? Because the Muslims were murdering Christian pilgrims.
That's a lie. I'm not having any more of that. That's completely and utterly false.